this? Doesn't anybody knock anymore? God! I could have stabbed myself in the eye with these things. You can't take a girl like surprised by that. Superhero pose. Remain composed. Hi everyone! I guess you're back for part 2 of Halloween at Home. My name is J.R. Pepper of GirlDuality.com and GirlDuality on Instagram. Shameless plug. But that having been said, welcome back. We're glad to have you here, even though you don't knock. But I'm excited for our next video. It's something that I love so much. It's on a very short list with good gin, pumpkin cheesecake, Schitt's Creek reruns, guinea pigs in hats. Oh, it is a short list. Hadestown, anything Lin-Manuel Miranda does. But in that case, it's one of my favorite things. I think it's going to be yours too. Dogs in hats and costumes. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Here's a video by Baby Girl Productions, my friend Mike Kessel of Baby Girl, at what I assume is one of the big Halloween costume parades for dogs. Whoop, whoop, whoop,
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise,
He did the mash,
he did the monster mash.
the monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
he did the mash.
He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrode.
They did the mash,
They did the monster
the
mash.
monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
they did the mash.
They did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun.
In a shoe,
The party had just begun.
in a shoe,
The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains, backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker Five.
played the mash,
They played the monster mash.
the monster mash.
You don't have to, Michael. It's blood.
Yeah, sure.
This movie is one of my favorites, and I have Katie Schaub, now Cerrone, to thank for it, because she gave it to me on VHS when we were in high school, and that is Joel Schumacher's The Lost Boys. The Lost family, a suburban family, I guess they're suburban, possibly, who knows, but a family that's recently been divorced that moves to California to live with their taxidermy-obsessed grandpa. Grandpa's also got an incredibly involved love life, which becomes important, but not really at all. He, courts widows with taxidermy woodchucks, which is probably what's gonna happen to me. I'm courting people with taxidermy and obscure movie quotes. The family is the mom with her short hair and sensible shoes, and she winds up getting a job in a local blockbuster of sorts. The younger brother, Sam, is one of the Coreys. Coreys were really famous in the 80s. I'm still not quite sure why. And the little brother winds up taking him and his husky, and they make friends at the comic book shop, where they become obsessed with horror movie or horror-related comics. One of the guys that works at the comic book shop is the other Corey, and he's part of a 2-part series known as the Frog Brothers, who become important later on and spout one-liners. And he basically just wears his old Goonies costume. Michael is the oldest brother who goes to a carnival and falls in love with this girl named Star, who is a Renaissance manic pixie dream girl with those bohemian skirts that are multiple layers that make it impossible to ride a bike. And he becomes completely enamored with her, and she's shown at the carnival with this little boy who's dressed like Adamant. And if you don't know who Adamant is, I don't have time to tell you. Look it up. That's what the internet's for. Because Michael is then serenaded by the sexy saxophone guy, who's also not important to the story at all, but has a lot of screen time. And it turns out that he has to basically outrun her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, or her lover, or whatever it is. It's not clear if she's pan, poly, or what the situation is, but she's involved with Keith Sutherland, and from 24. And don't worry about her. But, so Michael has to beat him in a beach motorcycle race, because that's what vampires do before Twilight, when they used to just stare in windows. Vampires were known for their motorcycle races back in the 80s. And he doesn't have to beat him, he just has to keep up. And then they wind up hanging off a bridge, and Michael screams, and there's a lot of incited homoerotic natures to this film. And then David has Chinese food with Michael. Like, they go on a date with all their friends, and then they drink blood, and then you get the quote, "Maggots, you're eating maggots, Michael. How do they taste?" Which they parody in What We Do in the Shadows to great effect with the spaghetti joke. I'm tired. Michael then becomes a vampire as a result of taking in the bodily fluids of Keith Sutherland. And now suddenly he's got a secret, and he won't tell his parents about it, and he's out all night, and they don't understand his lifestyle, and he's got an earring, oh no, and it might actually be an earring in the left ear, I think it is, which was also a euphemism, now very tiny veiled euphemism. Anyway, so in order to fully become a vampire, he has to sleep with this Star chick, I think, and he does. And it becomes an 80s sex montage.
80s sex montage?
Sure. So that happens, and once he has sex with her, then he's officially a vampire. And the brother wants to try to bring him back after the giant husky attacks Michael. And he says, "Oh my own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire." Sure. And so they decide that they're going to attack the vampire hub, because if they kill the main vampire, then Michael won't be a vampire anymore. The mom still has no idea what's going on, because she's kind of dating the guy that owns the Blockbuster. Saying that out loud sounds weird. And they kill a couple of the vampires in the vampire cave, and they spurt out blood in an almost pornographic way. And after that, they get back to the house, and the vampires attack, and they have an 80s montage about the whole family and the Frog Brothers preparing for the upcoming vampire attack. They kill Keith Sutherland with some taxidermy, some well-placed taxidermy, thinking,
"Oh, Michael will be fine because we killed the head vampire."
and it turns out that the head vampire is not Keith Sutherland or his mullet. It was the guy that owned the Blockbuster. So now they gotta kill him too. And there's this big hesitancy, and all of a sudden Grandpa was out sleeping with some old ladies over at Shady Pines, and he bars through the door. That was my shoulder. And he makes a typical 80s one-liner, and Grandpa saves the day. This movie is so ridiculous.
Hey, you want to see a magic trick? Hold on. Alakazam, Lin Miranda, Kazam! That it's a squishy tardigrade!
Not impressed? Shame. I'm so easy to entertain these days. But you'll be entertained with this actual magic act, courtesy of Nelson Luca.
Hello, friends. I would like to share with you a story about a strange dream that I've been having. I dream that I'm in a cemetery, wandering among the tombstones. The stones are ancient, so old and worn that I can't read them. I woke up, and I remember having had this dream. But the next night, I dreamed this dream again. Same cemetery, same tombstones. I woke up, and I remember having had this strange dream before. But the next night, I dreamed this dream again. Same cemetery, same tombstones, but this time it was different. On one stone I could make out a name. It was my name. In the dream I panicked, and I pushed that stone to the ground, and I began to rub it on the cold, rough earth until my name had worn away. I awoke triumphant, feeling that I had at last conquered this strange dream. But last night, I dreamed this dream again. Same cemetery, same tombstones, and on one of the stones, my name had once again reappeared. I woke up, and I have not been able to go to sleep since. It is my greatest fear that tonight or some night soon I will dream this dream again. And instead of just finding a stone with my name on it, I may find another inscription, the date of my birth and the date of my death, this year. Now, folk wisdom tells me that this would be my very last dream. I would never wake up again. But folk wisdom also tells me that to share the story of a repetitive dream transfers that dream from the teller to the listener. And friends, if this folk wisdom does indeed hold true, then I wish all of you pleasant dreams.
Hey there, my name is Melanie, also known as Bruja del Mar. Today I'm going to be teaching you to make this pair of pasties. Whether you're performing on a stage, dressing up in a costume, or if you just want to spooky up your tits for Halloween, these sparkly spider webs are super simple and way fun to make. So if you're interested, just keep watching. So to get started, you're going to need something to make your pasty base out of. This is just some super low-cost craft foam from the craft store. This is great for just like a one-off, like a Halloween costume or something you're not going to be wearing over and over again. If you want something more durable, I like to use a combination of upholstery vinyl and some buckram layered over top of it. For decorating our pasties, you can use a few different things. You can use like a combination of Mod Podge mixed with glitter and a container to mix it all together in. Or obviously rhinestones. You don't need to buy super expensive rhinestones. There are a ton of really high quality brands out there that are not Swarovski. And these little blue sticks are very helpful for rapid stoning. I have a pen and a marker for drawing, some scissors for scissoring. I have a couple bristle paint brushes and a foam paintbrush for decorating. This is some toupee tape to keep them on. These little hair clips will hold all your shit together. And then we have some watercolor paper and tracing paper. I'm just going to start by tracing out a circle so I have a general idea of the size that I'm going to be working with. This is just a lid to my Mod Podge. This works great for me, but you can use any circle or round object that fits your nips. You can also use a compass to draw a circle if that's easier, or if you have one laying around. I do not. Now I'm going to start drawing my design, which is just going to be a simple spider web. If you're using a design that's going to need to be perfectly symmetrical, it's important to know the exact center of your design. For this though, because it's not going to be a completely symmetrical figure, it doesn't really matter. Now I'm just going around and tracing around the border with a Sharpie. This is just going to make it easier to cut this out later. And now I'm just going to cut along that thick black line that we just made. And then when we're done, you're also going to want to cut just a single straight line from the edge of your design into the middle. This is going to be where we create the flap that overlaps to make it a cone shape. How much overlap you have will be determined based on how pointy you want these to be. I usually make mine about 1/8 of the size, but you can do 1/4, but just keep in mind that the pointier your pasty is, the smaller in diameter it's going to get, because numbers and math. Now I'm just going to use that stencil that we made out of watercolor paper to trace our shape onto our foam. And now we're going to cut this out as well. Now we're going to take some glue and a paintbrush, and we're going to paint our little wedge of glue pie where we're going to overlap and make our cone-shaped pasty base now. You don't have to use a paintbrush if you don't want to. You can also just use the tip of the bottle. I just think this is a little bit easier and more precise. Now we're just going to lay one flap over top of the other one, and then use these hairpins to hold everything in place. I actually don't mind that there's that little flap sticking out. One, we're just going to be able to cut it off later, but also it's kind of nice to have a little piece of something to hold on to while we're decorating. Now we're going to mix up our custom colored glitter glue. So I like to use Mod Podge and just whatever color glitter you want to be working with. I mix them up already, but I'm going to add a little bit more to this mixture. And this is really nice because mixing the glitter in with the Mod Podge means it's not going to shed everywhere and create a glittery mess. And by the magic of television, I have one of these already dried. And then we're just going to use this little sponge paintbrush to decorate it. You're probably going to need to do multiple coats depending on what color you're working with, how much glitter you put in the glue, and what color the base is. Because this glitter is about the same color as the base, it only took a few coats. Now I'm going to take a Sharpie once this is all dried, and I'm going to draw out the lines for where I want my glitter glue and my rhinestones to go. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can freehand it. I just think this is a little bit easier, and because it's going to be covered up with black glitter anyway, this Sharpie isn't going to show up. I'm going to to go over the top of these lines with another mixture of some black glitter with Mod Podge. I'm just doing basically the exact same steps as I did to make the green glitter. This is just going to be a finer line that I'm doing to go over the webbing on my spider web, so I wanted a smaller tool to do that. And just like I did before, I'm going to do a couple of coats just to make sure that this is as opaque as possible. And if you want, you can use a tool like a toothpick or a skewer or something like that to get even finer lines than this. These aren't, anything that I'm going to be selling to anybody or using on stage at all, so I didn't feel the need to be super careful. But you can definitely use whatever tools you have lying around. This does not have to be a project where you go buy a whole bunch of craft supplies that you'll never use again. Now, the alternative is to use rhinestones. So I'm using one of these little hairpins to grab onto that little end that's sticking out. And then I'm just dipping my brush directly into the glue and painting right along those lines. I like to paint multiple lines in advance rather than doing a little dot of glue and a rhinestone. If you get the lines all in place first, then you can just grab your rhinestone placing tool and just kind of go to town and do a whole bunch of stones in a row. And then here I'm just picking up my little rhinestoning tool and just popping the stones on anywhere that I made lines of glue. You don't need a special tool to do this. Honestly, a crayon works fine too. You can also use the back end of a paintbrush just dipped in some warm candle wax. You just want something that's a little bit sticky to place it. You can also use tweezers. I just think a tool like this is a little bit easier and faster. And when you are all done, you should have something that looks like this. The ones on the right are obviously the rhinestone version, and the ones on the left I use the glitter glue. But they are both fun and sparkly and lightweight and easy to make. Hope you enjoyed.
Well, would you look at that? Looks like there's demons, vampires, and monsters in there. Reminds me of this next cartoon by Stephen Brooks of Rubber Onion. See what I did there?
I am Dracula, king of the night.
I'll make you a deal. I'll stop calling you Jessica. You put your dress away.
It's no dress, it's cape.
Whatever. It's worse than the wig.
My wig. Kyle, the hair and importance, and it perfectly matches my natural scalp. It looks wonderful on me.
Yeah? Well, it doesn't.
Frank, you think this looks good on me, huh?
Frankie, don't let him do it to you.
No, Frank, not again.
Let me
I hate that movie.
Don't let him do it to you.
No, Frank, I was here first. Oh, you do make a good point. You do, Frank. Oh, you don't like fire, do you, Frank? I think I knew that. Silly me.
Yes.
What?
Well, I give up. It would be much easier if I could see my reflection.
That's my seat.
Well, I don't see your name anywhere. Disgusting canine!
That's my name.
You didn't have to pee on it.
it's just my favorite time of year. So this is why I try to put this together. And I'm really glad to have so many new people in my life participate in this, even though we can't exactly see each other right now. So with that in mind, please welcome my friend from Odd Salon, Megan, as she does a reading of Spooky Proportions.
Hey spooky people, my name is Megan. I'm from San Francisco. So I'm going to read a couple excerpts from this random poem book that I had just recently purchased. I actually haven't read any of the poems in it. It's called Guillotine by Edward Corral. I wanted to read his namesake, which is the Edward Corral Guillotine poem. You can see here the stanzas are super weird, so I do apologize if I incorrectly recite this poem, but it's poetry and it's art, so we're gonna run with it. Other reminder, these poems are not scary. There is some like intensity and some content that is like a little weird or could be triggering. So trigger warning. And then at the end of my video, I will also share my art. I do have a Society 8 link for one of my pieces, and I'll start adding more pieces if you guys like what you see. So I'll add some more content and be a real artist. Anyways, let's read some poetry. So, Guillotine. The scorpion always arrives at dawn. Gently. The piercers touch the cut on my lips. I clutch the edge of the mattress, stare at the mirrored ceiling. My mouth opens, but no sound staggers out. The scorpions, dark green, dank, reach in, pull out the razor blade under my tongue. Those two scorpions, a razor blade, slowly in unison, without letting go of the metal they move. A little guillotine making its way down my body. I remember dragging my thumb through his beard, coppery and difficult. The scorpions pause, tilt the blade, a threat, a reminder. It's my task to stop yearning for as long as it takes them to carry a blade across my skin. My thoughts swerve from monsoon storms to accordions to pecan groves. The little guillotine starts moving again. I begin to sense the enormity of my body, the blade high in the air for now. What does it mean? Nobody knows. That's what it is. It's a poem. It's interpretation. Poetry. The next one I'm going to read. Ooh, I like this one. I haven't read this one yet. Autobiography of my hungers. Sorry, that isn't supposed to be so intense. The autobiography of my hungers. His beard, an avalanche of honey, an avalanche of thorns. In a bar too close to the Pacific, he said, I don't love you, but not because I couldn't be attracted to you. Liar! Even my soul is pot-bellied. Thinness in my mind equals the gay man of the nightly news. Kissed by death, a public scorn, the anchorman declared weight loss is one of the first symptoms. The Portuguese have a word for imaginary, never to be experienced love. Whoop-de-doo. I don't love you, he said. The words flung him back. His eyes, I saw it, to another bar where a woman sidestepped his desire. Another hunger, a friendship. In 10th grade, weeks after my first kiss, my mother said, you're looking thinner. That evening, I smuggled a cake into my room. I ate it with my hands, licked buttercream off my thumbs until I puked. Desired with no future, bitter longing. I starved myself by yearning for intimacy that doesn't and won't exist. Holding hands on ferries, tracing with the tip of my tongue a jawline. In the bar too close to the Pacific, he said, I don't love you, but not because I couldn't be attracted to you. His beard, an avalanche of horns, and an avalanche of honey. Poor guy. And then I'm going to finish with this last one because I thought it was very appropriate for our time right now. Not that it's spooky, I meant in like the quarantine sense. And it's called Questions for My Body. And the reason why I said like I like this poem because I have read this one poem before in multiple takes for this. So, questions for my body. Why are you nocturnal? How many cathedrals have you entered? Has cruelty ever saved you? Do you remember the length of his thumbs? Isn't that enough cake? Have you ever soaked your feet in gasoline? Do you still fear the virus? How can you sleep in this heat? Is that a soul patch? Do you laugh or cry at Keats' grave? Have you been claimed? Excuse the glare. Let me try to get a better shot of it. This is a pelican from Aesop's Fables. It is acrylic and yeah, one of my favorite pieces I still keep. It's actually, I do have it for sale on Society 8 and I'll share that link. And this is my other style, which is 90 by 70 and has traveled cross country both ways. There's actually another painting this size in a box in my closet. I don't have it displayed. Actually, don't know if I actually kept it. It may have gotten thrown away, but anyways. So this is more Pollock style, and then it's all acrylic paint, and then I did, as you can see, some nice pastels, or technically they're oil pastels, and I just kind of gesture etched a nice raven skull because I went through a skull phase.
Occupational Hazards by N. M. Scurry. Art by Byron Rempel. Occupational hazards. It's the smell of it that hits me first. Bleach, and lots of it. We weren't supposed to be using that. The boss gave us disinfectant stuff to use, but, well, Marty likes to go old school. Nothing like a bottle of bleach to kill those bastards, he'd say. Although I'm guessing it had more to do with the lavender scent than anything else. To be honest, when we end up in a place, there's generally a lot of bastards to kill, so I don't argue too much. We're the cleanup crew, so while the view changes from job to job, the mess never does. Some stuff never changes at all. Always some sort of plastic suit to get duct taped into. Always more tools than people expect. Don't ever ask what we do with that putty knife or the steam machine while we're talking. Lots of crap to cart away. And bad smells. Always bad smells. As my dad used to say, it's the life of the decon guy. Except they didn't call it decon back then. He was just a janitor, going where the cops told him to after the body was taken away. Now we have rules, permits, plastic suits that make you sweat your balls off, and smelly bleach. Me, I'm a specialist. I don't do meth lab cleanups. It pays good, sure, but I like killing my liver on my own time, thank you. Besides, scraping brains off the walls really doesn't bother me that much anymore. Summer kind of sucks, though. Rot sets in faster, more bugs. Things tend to get oozy real quick. The belly bursts open and there's shit everywhere. I do mean everywhere. There was this one guy, a mule out of Colombia. Had about 20 balloons in him that a few broke. Poor bastard. He must have been in that apartment for almost a month before someone decided to call in the stench. It was over 100 in the city for about a week, and that guy had the windows closed. No AC, of course. I kind of feel bad for the cop that had to go in first. They always make the new guy do it first. The old guys think it's funny to watch him puke on their shoes. I gotta clean it up, of course. Mind you, winter ain't much better. Yeah, stuff stays nice and cool and the smells aren't so bad. But what does come out goes out like a rock. The steamer doesn't do any good when it's 20 below in a drafty old house because they cut the power and the snow gets in and you end up melting it and making more work for yourself. We get the old guys in the winter, little ones too, and there's so damn many of them. There's always more. Another call, another job, another bottle of bleach. Marty loves his job, but me? Sometimes I don't know. One time I got a bad one. A kid not much older than my boy. His mother found him in his room hanging from the top of the bunk bed. His family had been away for a few days, so it wasn't good. So his mama found him. Now, most people know about not touching bodies, but when it's your own, well, you know how that goes. She cut him down, but he was past any help in this life. It was all they could do to let her go of him, and they carried him out. He was bad when they found him, as I said. He was a bit ripe. From what I understand from my buddy at the ME office, his head and tongue were all puffed and blackish blue. Hey, my job's bad, but at least I don't have to look at that. So for a few days after the cops took her baby away, I had to go and clean up. Now, for a bunch of reasons, we don't like having anyone in the house while we're there, and we tell them so. Insurance, we tell them. But the bleach and the bastards decide it's never good when they're there. Our job is to tear it up and toss it out, and they never want us to. And they want to talk. Always, they want to talk. Unless they want to yell, and of the two, talking can be worse. So we always tell them they need to be somewhere else. Now, we usually work in teams, but this was supposed to be a quick job, and Marty was gone fishing, so they just sent me. I got myself strapped up, grabbed my gear, and knocked on the door. The mama answered. She was still in black. She looked healthy enough, but kind of knocked around, like she was on the mend from being sick for a long time. She kind of smiled and let me in. She didn't say much. She showed me the room, then left me there. There wasn't much. A desk, a chest of drawers, the bunk bed. There was a picture on the desk. 2 boys and a man at the beach. They looked happy. I guess one of them was the one I was cleaning up. I try not to think about that too much. I turned to the beds and got to work. I pulled the lower mattress, twin with no box spring, thank God. I got a look at the carpet underneath. I hate shag carpets. A little spot up top hides a mess underneath. I started cutting and pulling the padding. It wasn't good, but I'd seen worse. Soon it was all loaded into my truck. I was out of the suit and back at the front door. Usually Marty takes care of paperwork, but him being out on the bay wasn't getting papers signed, and the boss likes getting paid. She came back to the door, saw the clipboard, and let me back in. I apologized for the rug and told her the renters should take care of replacing it. Would you like some tea? She pointed to the pot sitting on the coffee table in the living room. She caught my glance out to the van. I'd like to read the form first. Please, sit. I did as I was told. She took the clipboard and read over the papers. It's just routine. I know what it is, she said. I've used your services before. I didn't know how to answer that. I'd been doing this for a couple of years. I usually am pretty good at remembering places, even if it was all a bit of a blur sometimes. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't know. Perhaps your husband... He's dead. Someone else from your company came by then. An older man. Salvatore was his name. Oh, yeah, that's my boss. He doesn't do field work anymore. I'm sorry about your husband. Was that his picture inside? I don't know what got into me. Why was I still there? Get the paper signed already, my mind was telling me. Get out. I had a van to clean out. Old Sal was not keen on OT either, but there I was, in the ladies' living room, going on. Yes. Her eyes were right on me, but I don't think she saw me at all. Harold, my boys, too, gone. All of them. The sickness took them. The clipboard fell on his lap, and she kept talking. Smiles, always smiles. No one could make me laugh by my Harold, but he got tired, so tired. Work, he'd tell me. It wasn't that. There were doctors and hospitals. They said it was in his head, the darkness, but it was like his spirit was broke, too. We'd never tell, though. Visiting family in the country, we'd say. That sort of shame can break a man. You know what I mean. She looked at the clipboard, smoothing out the paper over and over. The pen dropped to her foot, but we both just sat there. The light came back when the boys were in the house. I thought we were finally done and my Harold was well again. It was just a devil's trick. It came back for Harold worse than before. Took my boys, too. First my little Johnny. It was the drugs, but I knew what was behind it. You boys came for him, too. Tall fellow, that guy, time. Oh, Marty? Yes, nice boy, but he had to come back. Missed a spot and the mold took. I didn't blame him, though. It was hard times. Harold took it bad. They tried to give him medicine, electric shock, too, but it never took any of it. It said it reminded him of Johnny, and he wouldn't do it. He went away for a long time. It looked like he was getting better. They said he should come home for Christmas, they said. Said it would do him good to be by family. We took the train to the hospital on the island to get him. It was hard. Too hard. We tried. She started looking through her pockets, and I almost spilled the sugar getting a napkin for her. She wiped her eyes. He sent Eddie and me to the market. Said he wanted a roast for Christmas dinner. I never knew how to drive. Eddie... We took him to the market and back again. We went to the cellar. We thought he was fine. It was bad. My Eddie, he saw it first. Wouldn't let me down to see. They were both here this time, Salvatore and the tall, thin fellow. Took them a long time. Eddie, he was never right after that. He broke it off with a nice girl. He tried to work it. I saw my Harold in his eyes. I tried to get him help, but he was stubborn, just like his daddy. Finally, he got medicine. He kept saying he couldn't feel sad, but he couldn't feel happy either. He said he'd try for me, though. He was all I had. I left him alone. Why? Why couldn't they take me? Why? I sat there. They never told us what to do for stuff like this. I couldn't think of anything that wouldn't screw things up worse, so I just sat there. She didn't cry, she just shook. I mumbled something. I touched her sleeve when I picked up the clipboard, and she grabbed my arm. She looked at me, and it was like she snapped out of what had her. She wiped her eyes again and smoothed her hair. She apologized for making me stay and signed the papers. I wasn't hungry, but I took a cookie from the plate she pushed toward me and handed it back to me into the van. I took the last look as I went into the van and saw her at the door, the full teapot behind the table. I hope I'm not on the schedule when the call comes. I might have to get some fishing in.
Hey Bobby, why aren't you out there trick-or-treating with all your friends?
I'm not going outside this year. I don't like my costume. As soon as I go outside, they're gonna beat me up.
There is nothing wrong with that costume. In fact, you're gonna go upstairs, you're gonna put it on, and you're gonna meet me down here, and you're gonna help your pops hand out candy to all the kids.
Trick or treat, smell my my feet.
Well, looks like we have our first customers. Bobby, go upstairs and put on your costume now.
Oh, fine.
Hey, happy Halloween, guys. I'm just waiting for my son to come over. Bobby? Ah, here we go. Okay, Bobby, give him some candy.
Ow! Ouch! Ow! Ow!
Take that.
Yeah!
All right, candy.
Is this a bone?
I think what Lady Midge is trying to say, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our little dark heart for watching Halloween at home with us this year. We appreciate each and every one of you and each and every microdose. And I'm sorry. I'm just sorry that this year is such a dumpster fire. I'm sorry that weddings are canceled, that events that you'd been looking forward to just didn't happen. I'm sorry that this didn't last 2 weeks. I'm sorry that her hat didn't stay on. But the only way we're going to get through this is together. A number of these performers and cartoons and animators that you see have various platforms where you can go and support their work. Find them on Instagram, SoundCloud, various other venues. A lot of them have websites, which I've listed after each act. Go back and give them some love and support, because the only way we're going to get through this is together. And the only way we're going to be able to do this is if we help one another, because it's pretty clear that the help's not coming. There are no superheroes to help us out. We have to do this for ourselves, and we have to help each other. And our holidays aren't canceled. They're just different this year. And this is the one that's the nearest and dearest to my heart. So with that in mind, happy Halloween. So make yourself a pumpkin spice latte and watch your favorite Halloween show. Bette Midler is always fantastic. Might I make a recommendation? But thank you so much for joining us at Halloween at Home. And hopefully this time next year, we'll do this on stage. And we hope to see you there. So from Lady Midge and I and all the performers and cartoonists and animators, have a spooky Halloween.
Thank you.